Hello, welcome to Tuesdays in the Shop. I am Andrea.
And I'm Yvette behind the camera.
She's sitting this one out today, manning the behind the scenes.
This is like where I belong, really.
Well, debatable, but that's where she is today. First, we would like to, acknowledge the fact that last week during our video, we made a big announcement that the brick and mortar store here in Midtown Manhattan is going to be closing sometime before the end of the year. We don't know exactly when yet. And afterwards, we received so many messages of support and just some really kind words. And I want to thank everyone for supporting us all these years and for continuing to support us. And for, writing us nice messages.
You're going to start crying again.
I'm not going to start crying.
She cried, definitely.
Yes, as I was reading the messages the next morning, I did cry a little bit. I'll admit that, but we really appreciate it. And just to let you know that we're not closing, things are not ending. This is just a new phase. We are still getting new fabric in all the time, as evidenced by the fabric in front of me and beside me right now. We have a new group from Figo. And Figo is one of the smaller companies that is probably not as well known as, a Moda or a Robert Kaufman.
Who are they a subset of?
Northcott.
Northcott, yeah. So it's like the modern brand within Northcott.
Yes,
right?
Exactly. Yeah. Several years ago, when the whole modern thing started becoming more popular, a lot of the big names sort of branched off with smaller companies that could be their modern fabrics, because I guess they didn't want to have
dilute
their traditional fabrics with these crazy modern patterns. So they sort of launched little mini brands, and Figo is one of those. But one of the things Figo has been doing lately is wovens, or I should say yarn dyes, since all of our fabrics are woven. But the yarn dyes are using different colors in the warp and the weft, or in this case, what's called a space dye. So this collection is called space dye.
Not yarn dye?
No, it's not called yarn dye. It is a yarn dye. It's a lot of the same words.
I seem to have a block about the term space dye.
Yeah, for some reason, she's having a lot of trouble with this one.
Andrew has said space dye to me like 6 times.
Every time
I'm like, which one is that?
Yeah, every time I bring up the name of this collection, oh, this collection came in. Oh, this is coming. Which one is that? The only one that uses space dye yarn. Anyway, so let me hold it up so that you can get a better look here. So yeah, I'll let Yvette do that
so that I can see where the focus is.
Yeah. So there, hopefully, you can see that the threads are dyed Well, the threads are variegated.
They're space dyed.
Yes, the technical term is space dyed. I don't know why.
Because
that's
it's
the term.
Different space, right? Like it's a long string,
right.
And parts of it
different colors. So variegated. A lot of you have probably used variegated thread. So it's the exact same thing. So as if you were going to weave your entire cloth out of variegated thread. So you can
But only in one direction, right?
Correct. Only in one direction. So it's in the warp direction. And then there's just a solid in the weft. Yeah.
Because otherwise you wouldn't get a stripey look.
Correct. You'd get a weird all over kind of plaid thing going on, which could be cool. It might not be.
Might look just like nothing.
It kind of looks like nothing. I have a long story about that, but I'm not going to get into it. Just
so everybody knows, Andrea's degree is in weaving.
Yes, and I worked for a company that did bedding, and all of the fabric was produced in China. And I was trying to get the mill to come up with this variegated, or maybe it was plaid, actually. It doesn't matter. It didn't work. But anyway.
But she knows way more about weaving than a normal person
does. Threads and yarns. I had to take a whole class on just yarn in college. I didn't stay awake very much through it, but that's also a different story.
You graduated.
I did graduate. So anyway, back to our fabrics. So this is a new collection from Figo called Space Dye, because they're using these space dye yarns, which are just variegated colors in the weft. So this one is a pink and yellow, maybe a little bit of orange. Predominantly pink and yellow for this one, and I think this one is called Rose.
Yeah, like a
this one is
corally
Rose.
Right?
I love pink and yellow and orange together. I don't know what it is, but I love it. This one is called Sun, and this is also yellow with orangey, not really, well, a little bit of pink.
Doesn't really look like the sun to me.
No, it's not quite bright.
It's like
bright
a little
enough.
too pink to be the sun.
Yeah, well, right, because it does have the pink in it, but a little bit more, definitely more yellow in this one than this one. I wonder if it's the same warp. Nope. Nope, this one is, I'm sorry, actually it might be. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Anyway, so those are just two of the colors. I'm going to hold up a couple here so that I don't have to do them all exactly one at a time.
Oh, that section is really pretty together.
Well, of course. That's why I put it together.
I didn't know you did that on purpose.
So these are a lot of the neutrals here on this end, and then kind of ranging into the orangey pink kind of clay colors. This brown is really nice, this cocoa.
Oh yeah, that one's pretty.
So this one has a little bit of gray, burgundy, orange, brown. There's just a lot going on in here.
What is that one called?
Cocoa.
Cocoa.
So that one is really interesting. I think these whites, well, one is called cream and one is called biscuit. So these are both off whites.
Yeah, they're really
very
close,
usable.
so not very easy to see on camera.
Oh, okay.
But
yeah, this one is, so
lighter.
this one is cream. It's mostly white, actually, with a little bit of cream, I guess, kind of going through it. And this one is mostly cream, but they're calling it biscuit. So I think of like a sugar cookie with this one.
Yeah.
So those two are very usable neutrals. I can see, I mean, you could use this for anything. This would be a great substitute for solid white in a lot of things.
Oh,
Just give you a little bit more interest, a little bit more depth, but not taking away from your piecing or whatever else you have going on.
And it's not so much of a stripe that you have to worry about direction, right?
Exactly. I mean, it is directional. There are striaes kind of going in one direction, but they start and stop. So it's not a continuous stripe. So you don't have to worry as much about lining it up.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So like, do you think that when you're piecing it, you have to align them this way?
No.
I mean, I think so. I think it's subtle enough that you don't have to worry about which direction it's in.
Yes, I would agree. It's nice and subtle, and I think you wouldn't have to worry so much about that. So those are sort of the neutrals. These are more of the brights, and also some grays over here on the end. But these are really pretty.
This one makes me think of a sari. That first one?
Yes. Yeah, so that first one is called Berry. And it is kind of like a magenta with a little bit of yellow and orange and
kind of gold.
Really, they're just very, they just have a lot of depth to them and really interesting.
We just got the question, how tightly are they woven?
That's a great question.
Would it work for Kawandi?
Yes. I think these would be great for Kawandi. They're pretty tight. They feel a little bit thinner than your traditional. Well, they feel kind of like a solid.
Yeah, maybe as heavy as a solid or a little lighter than a solid.
Yes, maybe slightly heavier. I'm sorry, slightly thinner than a solid. I guess it depends on which solid. Maybe like a cotton couture would probably be very similar to this.
But it is a tight weave.
It's a tight weave.
Very thin yarn.
Yes.
So it doesn't feel like it would be hard to needle.
I don't think so.
Even though it actually is a pretty tight weave.
Yeah, the selvages are very tight. But even they look cool because they have the striated yarn also. So this is a blue warp.
Oh, that's cool. You would never have guessed that.
Yeah, I wouldn't know. And then with pink, so pink threads going in this direction, blue threads going in this direction. That's interesting. But the threads are very fine. It does seem finer and crisper than most of your traditional quilting cottons.
It almost feels like silky.
Yes, it does have kind of a silky feel. Some of the colors have even a little bit of a sheen almost. But they feel
not like a polyester sheen, a pretty sheen.
It's interesting. Yeah, this one feels a lot smoother than this one.
Yeah, isn't that always crazy about color?
Interesting.
When
Yeah.
the dye takes the base thread is going to be the same, right?
Right.
But the dye that goes on top of it does sometimes change the
Yeah.
texture.
And yeah, these two feel very different. They both feel nice, but they do feel pretty different. This one
You're right.
feels-
This feels more smooth.
Yeah, for
Yep.
sure. Interesting. So these just came in today. So this is actually like the first time I'm getting a close look at them. So that's why I'm kind of, inspecting them a little bit more than usual.
Yeah, and Andrea was so excited about these when she saw them
I
in
really
the
like
catalog.
these purple. Yeah.
She was like, "Can I get these? Can I get these?"
You know that I like wovens and interesting wovens. Dobby, I guess we could call them Dobby wovens. But anyway, these I'll just keep going because they're so pretty. So this one is pistachio.
That's a really nice green.
It is a nice green. It's a yellow green. This one is just called green. And this has, they both have a little blue, but this has more yellow.
Right.
And then this has more blue. So you've got your yellow green and your blue green, both covered here. And this one is teal.
That's Andrea's favorite.
So, honestly, I'm not sure. There's a couple good ones here.
You just
I really
always
like this
aqua
one.
and teal.
This one is called navy. It's kind of purpley.
Yeah, that's the wrong name for
I
that.
wouldn't,
That is not navy at all.
I wouldn't necessarily consider this navy. It's more maybe a cornflower.
Right. Although I have to say, thank you to Figo for actually giving these names.
Yes.
This makes our lives so much easier,
Yes.
even if we don't agree with the name you gave it.
Right. I'll still use
It's
it.
still so
That's
much
fine.
easier for us than like white/green or
Yes.
whatever.
Yes. Or just a number. This one is cloud.
That one's so pretty.
This one is pretty.
It really does look like a sky.
Very much so. Yeah. Or water. These would be so nice for like landscape if you're doing art quilts.
It also kind of looks like winter, like a winter
Could be that
sky
too.
or
Yep.
winter lake.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, snowdrift kind of in the distance. This one, what was this one? Fog. This one's fog. So this is a light gray. And then this one is soot, which is maybe not the best name, but
Yeah, that's not a very positive sounding name, but
yeah, I saw someone else online had changed it to charcoal.
yeah.
But charcoal and soot are basically the same thing.
Color, yeah. They're not the same thing.
They're close. Anyway, so this is your dark gray. So
Yeah,
this
that's a
would be
really nice
closest to
color.
black. It's not black. It does have, a little bit of maybe white in there, but not very much.
And
So
it's not so dark that, it's a really nice charcoal.
yeah, it's a nice charcoal gray. So yeah, having the two grays, your light gray and your dark gray, your white and your cream and your biscuit here give you a lot of options for neutrals. And then you've got the cocoa, of course, which is another good warm
one's so
neutral.
pretty. And I don't like brown,
Sand.
and I think that one's so pretty.
Yeah, same. Sand is another nice warm neutral. So yeah, even just, I'll try to hold these up here.
Those are nice together.
So just holding these up together like this,
Yeah, that's pretty.
It looks so pretty. And Yvette had the idea while we were sitting here playing with these that these would make a really nice biscuit quilt. And for those that may not know what a biscuit quilt is, actually she used the word puff quilt. Same thing, biscuit or a poof. So you're basically making you're stuffing a little square and then sewing your squares together and making your quilt that way. So it's almost like a pre-stuffed or pre-batting.
I think most people probably know what a puff quilt is at this
I think
point.
by
just 'cause
now.
it went on social media.
Yeah,
so crazy
it's been
in the last year.
popular. They seem to go in spurts, as a lot of trends
Yeah,
do.
like wide leg jeans versus skinny jeans or whatever.
And I know like in the 70s they were pretty popular for a while, and then nobody did it for a long time, and then I remember doing it in the early 2000s.
So yeah, like every 20 years.
Something, yeah, 10, 20 years, something. Well, it wasn't early 2000s, but anyway. Yes, so it's cyclical, like a lot of things. But yes, these would make really pretty biscuit quilts. They would look amazing in Kawandi because they do have that kind of sari look to them also.
Or like any pattern that's written for solids, if you did all of it with these wovens, like
Yes.
the quilt that's behind you right now.
Oh yeah.
This is the Interrupted Log Cabin quilt, which is a pattern in the quilt with Tula and Angela.
You got your
book.
white right there. You got your
And
gray.
it's done in all solids.
Your black, And then we got the pops. We've got this color here. We've got that color.
It would look so rich.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we've got all the colors right here. That one could be maybe that or cloud. Yeah, you could totally.
Really cool.
It would. This would be gorgeous. But she's right. Any quilt that's written for solids, I think, or not even. It doesn't have to be solids. You could mix these in with prints as well,
Yeah, definitely.
and kind of, use them as they're sort of in between, because they're not as plain as a solid, but they're also not as busy as most prints.
Yep.
So they're kind of like blenders.
Yeah.
You could use them sort of like blenders.
And they're not so thin, like if you've ever used K Facet's shot cottons.
No, they're not that thin.
Which can be a little bit difficult to mix with quilting cottons because of the difference. These would be easier to use mixed with quilting cottons.
And they're fraying a little bit, but not. It doesn't seem like it's that much. Well, it might be a little bit worse than printed, but not. It doesn't seem like it would be unusable.
Oh, we were also going to talk about how, because of the way these are made, there's some variation.
Yes. So let me try to find one here. So these are, because of all the variation in the yarn, there will sometimes be minor discrepancies.
And you can see that there aren't a lot of them because she's having a hard time finding
so here's one. So here's one where right here, a little thread, it looks like it might have just gotten caught in the loom. But to me, that just sort of adds to the, they're not hand woven.
I wish I knew how to make this camera focus, but you can definitely see that line.
They sort of have, they're not hand woven. These are woven by machines, like almost all the fabric that we sell. But it has kind of that look and that feel to it. So, and I think those little things just sort of add to that look and feel.
Yeah.
To me, they're not defects or flaws. They're just something else that makes it interesting. And I feel like there was another one I saw maybe somewhere, but as you can tell, it's not easy to find. So there's not a lot of these. But just as I was cutting this, I did notice in a couple places around the selvage too, it was a little, it just looked a little bit different than the rest of the fabric. But even the selvage,
not a defect. It's just a little variation in it.
I don't know if you can
and
see
if it bothers
that,
you, you can definitely just cut that part out. But we encourage you to keep it in because it makes it more unique.
Exactly. I am really digging this selvage. So the selvage is always woven tighter than the rest of the fabric because that's what the machines are holding on to as the fabric moves through all of those machines. So you don't want them to stretch at all. They're woven really tight and really strong, but it still has the variegated threads in it. And it almost looks like a grosgrain ribbon.
Yep.
It would be cool to do something with these selvages. You don't want to include them in your regular projects.
I was about to bring that up.
Along with all of the regular fabric in the center, because they will shrink differently and they'll act a little bit differently. So that could mess up your project. But if you're just doing selvages or you've washed all of your fabric at least once to get some of that shrinkage out, then you should be okay. But it could be, and they don't unravel. And these are nice and tight. Sometimes, especially with woven, sometimes there will be fringe on the edge, but these are wrapped really neatly. It would be cool to add these as like pleats or flanges. Now I'm just like, oh, what can I do with this selvage?
This is the like weaving nerd coming out of Andrea.
Totally.
So continuing on the theme of we are in shutdown store mode, even though these fabrics are brand new, they're 10% off, just like everything else in the store that is in stock.
Yeah, so brand new fabric at 10% off. That doesn't happen very often.
Or at least it didn't used to.
Well, that's true. That's true. And they're so pretty.
They're lovely. I can't wait to make something with them.
I know. I'm trying to, and I think they would make excellent garments too.
Yeah.
It's such a nice weight, a little bit lighter, it feels like they're going to be nice and flowy. These would make great garments. Which one should I use
all of the colors are
first?
really wearable too.
Totally. Yeah, they're not too bright, but they're like, none of them are crazy. this green one might be the brightest.
Yeah, I wouldn't wear that color.
I don't
but
know that I
somebody
would
with different
either.
coloring than me could.
Right. I don't know that I would wear that one, but I mean, this is probably maybe the next brightest. That's totally wearable. It's probably even my color.
Yeah, I don't think I would wear that color either. But
Yeah, I don't know that you could, but anyway.
Claire is asking if they're as thin as Tana lawn. Which one is Tana lawn?
It's not that thin. So that would be like a Liberty of London
right.
weight. They're not that thin. So
those were more like
at least I don't
lawn
think.
weight. Yeah, I remember now.
No, I don't think they're that thin. Yeah, I think they'd be a little bit heavier than that, but I don't have one to feel right now, so I can't guarantee that. Any other questions?
Yeah, if anybody has any other questions, I'm going to put the QR code up on the screen.
And we have these available in fat quarter, half yard, and full yard bundles, just like always, which
yardage.
are all 10% off, and yardage, of course. And luckily, these are 15-yard bolts. A lot of times, the wovens are only 10 or 12 yards. So we've got a whole 15 yards, and these are actually a basic from Figo. So if you guys love them, we can keep getting them.
I hope they don't discontinue them because they're so pretty.
They are really pretty. I can see working these into quite a few things, I think. Yeah, and if, maybe they'll even come out with more colors if they do well.
Yeah, let's get them to make a real navy.
Ooh, that would be pretty. Yeah, something as sophisticated as the chocolate, but in navy. Ooh.
Also, they don't have a red.
No, there's no red. And I think after looking at these quite a bit, they're using the same warps for a lot of these.
That makes sense.
So these two are the same. These three. This one. No, that one's different.
Oh, can you imagine how much fun it must have been to pick these colors when they were in development?
So the way this works, so they have warps that are set on the loom all the time. And they try to get as many different colors out of each warp as they can. So I can tell that these three at least are on the same warp. And they just have different weft threads. So this is a bright blue weft. This is a bright yellow green. And this is actually like a blue green, probably to tone down some of the other green in there. So just by changing the weft yarn, that's how you're getting these color variations. That's the only thing that's changing.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And these are definitely on the same one. I think this one is too. I think all three of these are on the same warp because it's like an orange and yellow pink. So this is a light pink weft.
What about this one? Since these are so similar.
They're actually, this one I think is on this warp. I think that one's different.
Cool.
I think those two and probably this one are, well, I don't know if you guys can see that. So let me hold up the.
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking.
Yeah, I think these three are on the same warp.
So do you think that means that those three would look extra good together because they have more overlap?
Well, they're going to look good together, sure. I don't know if extra good is
a real phrase.
Right, is a real thing. And everybody, it's subjective too. Yeah. That's the other thing. So I think these three are on the same warp. This is a dark, so that might be black actually. It's either a very, very dark brown or black weft. This one is like a taupey clay kind of brown, beige. And this one is white, and this one's white. So the same warp, but with white thread and black thread.
That's really cool.
And you can see what that difference makes. Yeah, these are definitely on the same. Which one is this?
You can see how excited she is at like breaking these down and seeing how they are done.
I think these three are on the same. And the two whites, creams, whatever, these are definitely the same. And I'm sure that the two grays are the same. I think that's all of them. I
Yeah,
think
I think you went
I think
through
I got them all.
Also, none of what she just said makes any difference in
No,
picking the
it
colors.
doesn't make any difference at all.
She's just being a nerd.
Yeah, I'm totally a nerd, and you guys get to watch it for better or worse. But yeah, so when they're doing like their color work, they have the set warps, and then they just put whatever, all the colors they can think of across all of those warps and see what colors come out. So maybe, maybe they just, none of these looked good with a red thread. Don't know.
Right, that's true. Or maybe
so,
they only were going to make X number, and so they cut the red one out.
Yep, that's also a thing. You only get so many SKUs, and you have to narrow down and try to get it like to look good together and work with other things you have. It's not just picking out the pretty colors.
No.
There's
There's also the thing where like sometimes the designer personally doesn't like red.
Absolutely.
And then they don't put the red
or
in.
the design director doesn't like a certain color, so nobody gets to use that color. It's all, there's lots of, things that you might not think about that can sometimes be involved in these decisions.
Yeah. But luckily you don't have to worry about any of that.
Right.
Only we do, because sometimes we have to go back to the manufacturer and be like, can you please make a navy?
Yeah, that's only happened once, but they did actually do it.
Yeah, they added a navy after we asked.
But yes, this is, and the only reason I know any of this stuff is because I used to do it. This is actually very similar to wall coverings. That was my first job out of school.
That was for like cubicles, right?
For cubicles, office cubicle wall
Who
panels.
even knew that someone's job was designing the fabric that lines a cubicle?
And it looked a lot like this, almost all of it. We couldn't have stripes. We couldn't have any bold patterns. It was very beige, very gray.
But then somebody was like, make it pop.
No, there was no popping. No popping. You were allowed to pop for upholstery. You could have some pops there, but on your walls, no pop.
All right. Well, everybody, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for listening to me geek out.
Yeah. If you do think of any questions about this group or
really
anything else, you can always email us. Our email address is info@gothamquilts.com, or we also use us@gothamquilts.com. If you have that one, that still works. And this collection is called Space Dye Wovens. And how many of them are there?
16.
16 of them.
Yeah.
It's really pretty. It's really usable. Great addition to your stash to reach for.
Definitely, yeah. So we have bundles of all 16 colors in fat quarter, half yard, and full yard, and also yardage of each of these.
This is one I might get a full yard bundle of because they're so usable. And it's like when you're sewing at 2 a.m.
Exactly,
and you change
just
your
need
mind,
that thing.
You could just have it on hand.
Exactly, yeah. I think, and yeah, the colors are very usable. Nothing outrageous. It's going to fit in nicely with a lot of other things. Just as we showed earlier, you could replace almost all of these colors with colors from Space Dye. I have the outside the block sample hanging up on the other side of the room.
Yeah.
And a lot of these would fit perfectly with that too. So yeah, I think these will fit in very nicely in all kinds of collections.
Joy is asking how it sews. We haven't actually sewed with it yet because it literally just came in. But from handling it a lot, we both think it's going to be great.
I think it's going to sew really nicely.
Yeah. And if you do end up feeling like it's too slippery, we would recommend that you
no stretch whatsoever. Walking foot?
No. Oh yeah, you add a walking foot or you
starch
it. Those are the two tricks.
Yes.
If you have,
and yeah, those things will solve almost all of your issues with almost any fabric.
And wovens in general do tend to be a little bit more squishy than printed.
I don't think these are though.
Right.
These are
this
nice
one
and
is
tight,
more tightly woven. So this one should probably behave more like a quilting
I
cotton.
think it will. Yeah, I think it's going to be quite similar to all of the other fabrics you're used to. It doesn't stretch. It's not going to be squishy like she said. So yeah, I think it'll work very well.
I'm excited. We should make something.
Oh, totally. I'm trying to decide what to make.
You mean how many?
And which one? Yeah, exactly.
All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.